And what's up, guys? We are back with the story behind the brand. Got one of my bros here today, Dominique Bradley. He's a partner with the Brotherhood and Brand X. Really grateful to have him in our life. And we're going to be diving down deep. We'll talk a little bit about systems and processes, but mostly I want to talk about the story behind Brotherhood. I grew up with a younger brother, and we had a great and amazing relationship. And is probably one of the most important things I think as a man. I think people talk about fatherhood being important, but I think brotherhood is actually more important. But Dom played college football, had a degree in management, has been in marketing for the last 10 years, built an incredible software called Expert Market Lead that helps essentially get your brand out there through AI automation. It's incredible, guys. It is I'm starting to sound like Donald Trump now. It's incredible. It's the greatest of all things. But anyways, Dom, good to have you on the show, buddy. We've been talking about doing this a while.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, man. I think we're gonna kill it. Hopefully, people get some good knowledge out of this one. The
Oh,
goods.
absolutely. It's gonna be a very deep one. Is Dom loves the deep questions. He loves diving down deep and getting all into it. But anyways, we'll do that later because I know that's your favorite part. Fill in the gaps. Fill in the gaps about you, man. Tell us a little bit about your
Yeah,
background.
man. The one thing I would say is filling in the gaps about overall my personal brand or what I do really comes down to what Travis has made clear over time, as well as like kind of your history and your past kind of makes you who you are. And the biggest things I would say is being in marketing, I learned a lot about the difference between us as human beings, what we think we buy or why we think we buy compared to the actual reasons why we buy. And in business, learning that in this new step forward, even as a marketer, of how much AI and systems can really give you the scalability you're looking for. And as an individual entrepreneur or a solo entrepreneur, when you don't have partners and team members and stuff like that, you realize that processes and systems become just so important. And from my background of having a hard time with it, I think me building processes and doing things kind of came a necessity for me. And software became my buddy ever since being in school, because I'm dyslexic. So I've had to be using systems like Dragon or other systems like that my whole life. Even, the picture to text or picture to text to voice conversations, because I'm super audio when it comes down to how I hear things, when I listen, how I can put things together from hearing you and what you're talking about. And yeah, I've taken that over time and really started to be able to consult with people based off of the type of softwares they should use, what they're looking for. And, now I just really work with entrepreneurs, helping them put systems together, hire teams and staff, and using artificial intelligence and marketing. So it's kind of filling the gap to where I'm at now, which is I've always been in the marketing space. And you realize that no business, even when you're in the marketing business, can survive without marketing. So, learn a skill that everybody needs, especially in anything you sell.
I think people look at you and they're like, "Wait, you're supposed to be this nerd type dude. Like you're the back ends guy, processes, systems, automation, but you look nothing like the stereotypical like tech dude, if that
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense."
that's definitely true. I think I've shocked a few people sometimes in conversations, especially in certain rooms where there's a bunch of back end marketers and stuff like that. And it's mostly because from the front end to the back end, I'm a social person. It became super important for me to learn how to work with people, especially in school. I had to learn how to become friends with the smart guys, right, or the smart people, because I really understood that the environment and the people you hang out with really do determine, your success rate. And when you're hanging out with the kids who are failing, the chances of you failing is increased massively. And most of the time I learned that because they never did homework. So there was never a point in time, right? The smart kids I hung out with, you could be playing with them and they're like, "Oh, time to do homework." You're like, "Yo, we're in the middle of this game." They're like, "No, got responsibilities." And so learning to be more social, find, the ability to give in a relationship, or what you give in those kind of relationships, became really important for me. And so when I finally started doing the back end stuff, like really understanding the importance of it, I started getting in rooms where people only did the back end because they were afraid of the front side. They were afraid of the brand. They were afraid to talk. They were afraid to do all those things. But I had all those capabilities already.
Mm-hmm.
And based off of my ability to sell to people, I sometimes got forced into doing the back end because I would sell at a rate sometimes or grow at a pace where I couldn't fulfill the back end process or learn exactly how a person who's not like me needs to operate,
Mm-hmm.
which comes in like the learning the management skills and stuff like that. And, just being, the guy who, when I was dyslexic or when I am dyslexic in school, you're kind of outcasted a little bit. You're kind of pushed outside that bubble, and the things that you realize become super important for you are the people who do care about you, your friends, your family, your brotherhood, the people who protect you on that end. And then learning how to grow from that perspective. So I had to, in my mind, I was always studying things like how to talk to girls or how to make friends and stuff like that because, I knew there was something else besides just the stereotypical high school, you're the dumb guy or you're the black girl, you're the bimbo. And I was like, there's something deeper about being able to make friends, because everybody technically finds their crew, other people where they're, friends with in high school and stuff like that. And, so I had to learn a lot about people because I wanted to study people. I wanted to know why people like each other. I wanted to know how to be liked. I think it was part of my thing was like, how do I overcome these things that people try to label you as one way or another? And you realize that how you treat people and your people you are around, or they really do create the world around you pretty drastically. So yeah, I had to definitely be different and finally get in the back end. And when I get into rooms with people who are all back end people, sometimes they're just shocked. They feel like I'm just there, but when they realize that I may have what they have to offer, plus I have the ability to, talk to people or really find people interesting. I think it's because I find people interesting. Like I really do find people quite interesting. So it's like figuring out what makes them tick, what they're about, watching them maneuver, seeing the times where they're most confident and not confident, right? Figuring out how we all operate as human beings. You got to be kind of interested in that, so.
Yeah. We're all in the people business at the end of the day. So you got to understand people, how they behave. Yeah, exactly. Everything that you said. It's interesting how we as people, we really set standards, limits of who we are in school, in junior high and high school. It's such a identity stamping time for a lot
Absolutely.
of people that they carry on with a huge part of their life is what I've kind of noticed through the
Facts.
process. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate because, I mean, how many people do you still talk from high school?
Not that many at all, honestly. Like very small. Even my really good friends actually didn't even go to my same high school. Like I had really good friends since middle school.
Yeah.
And we didn't even go to the same high school, but we all remained really good friends. And it wasn't like we just went to different high schools because we were different areas. Both of them got into a private school up in northern La Jolla Country Day in California. They both got into that school, which kind of that was really cool dynamic. So instead of going to school with me, they ended up going to this private school. But we all stayed really good friends. And on that side, the kids I met in high school, I think the reason why it was hard for me to maintain that is one, I went out of school out of state, and
Mm-hmm.
the way I was raised, even like graduating high school, I still remember my uncle saying this all the time. He's like, if the fondest memories you have are in high school, you didn't do shit after.
Yeah.
And I always had that thought process in my head. So like when I'd go back to San Diego and kick it with friends, like, yeah, remember high school in my mind? I like got rid of that. I was like, I need to make new situations. I need new moments of like clarity of like how happy
Mm-hmm.
life can be or make new moments. And I didn't even want high school to be the place I peaked. So like in my mindset, it was such a stepping stone to kind of get rid of in that same space, which is like, what am I going to do next? And like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to make happen? And I can't let my high school be my story. And that
Right.
was like one of the biggest things of why I tried to do as much as I possibly could in college and even after college, trying to have memories and situations that were more memorable than your high school days, more than your high school peak, right? Or your football team or whatever else on that, trying to crash that identity and create a new one like every time you step into a new space, you know. So I just kind of left high school behind, and
Yeah.
friends and people who didn't go to school with me, even the people which were way smarter than me in high school, some of them were super shocked that I actually wouldn't got my degree, especially when you went from the special ed kid and they're going to all these schools and you graduate 5 years later and come home and they're like, oh wait, you graduated? I'm like, you didn't? Like, I'm like, it was a struggle for me, dog, but I made it happen, my man. I made it happen.
Crazy enough, I got a better GPA in college than I did high school, and I probably cheated most my way through high school. But
Facts.
so I was like, man, maybe I should have just been taking my own damn advice and actually doing the work. But yeah, you know, going from high school to college, and I've shared a little bit about this, is it was really a huge identity transformation for me because I wasn't this athlete anymore, and I kind of
Mhm.
sank my identity as a coach. And I had more fun coaching kids in high school than I did playing, probably because we whooped everyone's ass and we were way better than I was in high school. How was it for you? Like college was your like ending of that, and I think what you miss the most is just the brotherhood of being around other guys, and you know you don't realize how much time you really spend with all of them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
For
true.
you, when you graduated college, did you struggle with any of that stuff, or was it easy for you? Or
So, not like so. I would say my biggest struggle comes from actually the reason why I didn't struggle about that, which is my ability to isolate a little bit and my ability to my ADHD, which is like when you're not in my present space sometimes or like in my area, it's like really easy for me to totally have time blindness and time could fly by. And I may feel the same way about somebody, but that doesn't necessarily mean they feel the same way about me when that time is a distance. So in college, me for college was like my deep dive into leading people. Like I didn't really get led in college. Like when I went to the small university I went to, I was by far the best player on the in the school is what I felt like, right? And then I actually got a chance to prove it because unlike some of those kids who came there from other schools who were the best in their school or the best in the situation, I had a different work ethic, like completely than most of the people in my school. And most of the time, especially on the football team, was because I had a chip on my shoulder, right? I had like this dog on my shoulder that I felt like I always needed to prove something because it was something that I held on to so much. But I held on to more of my ability to play the game mentally than I actually did physically, which is like, you know, to me, it's like playing chess or playing, you know, and I played chess from a young age. So even those kind of things of like the strategy or why you're actually here or what's your next step into what your situation is. I went to a small school and I didn't feel like any of the people in that small school, that university, were trying to do like crazy big things. So like I felt like I was crazy most of the time when people were, I'm like, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go build my business, I'm gonna go do this, and stepping away from always being the guy that they thought was crazy. I threw crazy parties, crazy events. I did all sorts of things that they were just like, we shouldn't do this. I went to a school in a small town in the Midwest, so if you guys know about that,
you shocked them out there,
bro,
brother.
I had a crazy purple mohawk too. I had like blue and purple mohawks on my head and shit, like from California, wearing super tight skinny jeans and shit. I realized that that shit don't work in the cold. That was one of
Yeah.
my biggest shockers. I'm like, I need real jeans out here. These jeans are these floppy skinny jeans from California. They breathe air too much. You know, I need this. I need what is cold gear? What is that? What are underwear? Long underwear, which I didn't even understand. I got a little sheet of the things I needed. They're like long underwear. I got underwear that almost went down to my knees. I was like, this is long, right? Literally, I packed it up to go there. So, yeah, I'm really good with when people are around me and we're all thriving together. Like, I feed off of that. But I really seems like it when someone steps to the left or steps to the right or decides not to keep going down that growth path mindset that they seem to fall off of my wagon because I'm going to keep going forward regardless, right? And that kind of thing for college was like I was the only one trying to do business. I got offers to go to combines when I got out of college. I made the all-star team to go play in North Carolina for that as well. But in my mind, after I went to that event, I was like, I don't want to play in the pros. Like, I just don't want to even test that. Like, I was around hungry people. When I know the difference between being me very talented and being absolutely hungry, right? The difference between the kids I'm playing against who are trying to fight for their family and their mindset and all these other kind of things. And like even those players went to play in like arena ball and all these opportunities that I got, but I was just like, I'm done beating up my body. Like I'm just done. Like I've seen some of these old dudes who played for 3 to 4 years and chased the dream, right? Besides that one person you see on TV, there's like 70 of them on every team
Yeah.
that over that year process that try out, put themselves through all this stuff. And to me, the riches didn't seem like worth the sacrifice of your body, because you can go make that money, break an ankle, break a back, and you're just forgotten about. And so we went to this event, and there was a lot of people forgotten about there, and I was like,
Yeah.
listen, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy.
You know, you look at a football field in youth, right? You got how many players out there, how many of them will actually play college, right? Like you're talking
Facts.
about less than 1%. And then you go to all the colleges and same thing. How many of them are actually getting drafted, let alone, playing, like the numbers.
Facts.
And I'm not trying to like take away on anyone's dreams, but when you start right really looking at the numbers, your ability to make the type of fame and money outside of a sport is way higher than inside of a sport.
Facts.
And I didn't think I realized that, when I was younger. I still had the starry eyes on it, but um, I really missed the brotherhood of it. And early in my earlier days of growing a business, it was very lonely. I remember Max is always chilling here. You can see him there in the
Yeah.
background. In my earlier days, man, I'd just sit in my office and work and work and work. I remember going to this party and they're talking about Lambos and stuff, and I felt really like what the fuck am I doing here? I should be home working. So I freaking got an Uber on a 12 o'clock at night on like a Friday or Saturday and drove home and started working. And I think I bought into the belief system that it's lonely at the top and you have to be lonely. And it was the furthest from the truth. I should have been more around people that were doing what I was doing. I should have went more to networking events, and not just networking events, but networking events of like guys around more of my age and what I was doing. I stepped into these networking events. You got 40 and 50-year-old, same thing with the National Speakers Association,
Mm-hmm.
type thing. So anyways, long story short, I realized like, hey, I got to be around a bunch of people, joined a bunch of networking groups. And then, out here after my divorce about 2 years ago, which is crazy how fast time flies by. And I was just really thinking like, man, I would love to have um, a type of like brotherhood out here. And I looked around and I didn't really see much. So I was like, fuck, I'm just going to start my own thing. So I just started gathering people together. And then I don't know where I got the idea to run an ad from. I think I was like, man, if I'm really going to grow my business, I got to learn how to do these ads. And so I just whipped out the camera and just filmed something, and it started to take off. And I did another one in my pool, and I wasn't even planning on doing one in my pool, actually. And I just whipped it out as a Friday afternoon and did it. And this ad just fucking took off, bro. And I don't know which one that you clicked. Do you remember which ad you clicked on?
I clicked on the one of you in the poll.
One in the poll, yeah. And that one we still push it till this day. And I remember having an initial conversation on the phone with you. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like I can't remember much of the conversation, but I was like, AI, this dude needs to do something bigger. He got some good shit going for him. I think that's how I left the conversation. Anyways, you showed up at the house, whooped my ass in cornhole the first time, which I was like, do you remember that? Do you remember how many times did you come to the house? That was your first time, right? Coming over.
That was my first time coming to the house, yeah.
Yeah. And Dom whipped my ass, which I was actually really I was happy for a second. I was happy, but then again, I was like, damn, this motherfucker just beat me in fucking cornhole. This is my sport. And there started, this long and deep friendship. And I can't remember when you brought it to my attention, but like, hey, we should do something with this brotherhood. And the brotherhood wouldn't be where it's at today without you kind of like bringing that to my, yeah, just like helping inspire me to do that. Cause I knew that I didn't want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
I knew I needed somebody else. And for whatever reason, I thought I would find people through the process that would want to be a part of it. And Dom, for those that don't know Dom, he embodies what it means to be a brother, in my opinion. I trust Dom with everything. Just the way you ask questions, just the way you're asking me about my business and everything. Like, I can tell that you look out for people, and that's a rare brotherhood. Did you you had older siblings though growing up, right? You're
Yeah,
the
I'm the
youngest by
youngest
like,
by 8 years, right? So my mom wasn't expecting to actually have me. She had actually two surgeries to not have children, and I came out 8 years later. So
damn, that's crazy.
yeah,
So how old were your brothers compared to you?
so my oldest brother is, I think he's 5 years older than. So my oldest brother's 15 years older than me. And then my second brother's 13 years older than me, and then I have like a brother on my dad's side. They're all the same, around 15 years younger than me. And then the closest one is the youngest sister besides me, and she's 8 years older than me. So all of
Interesting.
them are at least, you know, 8 years older than me.
So you kind of grew up almost like a only child in a way.
Yeah, like I mean, my sisters were more like my parents, like you know what I mean. And that day and time when I was a kid, we were latchkey kids. It's like your parents are out working, and mostly it was my sister kind of taking care of me on that side. Not like she had to, like wasn't like my mom wasn't taking care of me, but my sisters were always home when I was from school, so I'm mostly spending my time with them. So they always felt like a parent figure to me. By the time I was 5 or 6, they were already like 13 to 17 or 18 years old, working jobs and stuff like that. So yeah, they were just really older than me. So when they all left the house, I was in the house pretty much for myself from anywhere from middle school all the way up to, high school, graduating. So
Yeah, so it was just me and my brother. My brother was 2.5, almost 3 years younger than me, and we fought so much until I got up in junior high. I remember this one time we got in a big fight, and we called our parents, and their parents were out shopping for Christmas, and they're like, "If you guys don't figure this out, we're taking all of our Christmas, we're taking all the Christmas presents home." And then like I called him like a minute. I went into the other room. I was like, "Tyler, we gotta pretend like we were just joking and call him back." So we called back. My parents say, "Oh, mom, we're just joking," and they soon came to find out that they were laughing their asses off because they knew we weren't joking.
I knew you were lying.
Yeah, but yeah, me and my brother, we always played some type of like weird sport in the backyard, like hitting the tennis ball with a racquetball. If you hit
Yeah.
it off the house, it's a home run, type of thing. And like those are some of my, favorite memories of having a brother. And we asked people in the brotherhood, like, "Hey, how many of you guys grew up without a father and without a brother?" And um, there was one instance where it was like more than like 70% of the room didn't grow up with like a brother or father, which was like crazy to think.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, in the day and age and time, the world we live in it's about 50+% of people who don't, have that situation go for them. And I was a blessing enough to be the kind of guy who did reach out and find other father figures. I did have a stepfather in my life, as well as like I seeked out other men who I believe were like father figures, and I really did take what they said serious. I was the kind of kid who wanted to learn from people like really bad. Like I just wanted to ask questions. I wanted to know what they think, what their life was kind of like. So I made really good friends with the people who are like parents to me still to this day, calling them like stepdad or calling my dad or telling them I love them, what's up, because they were just men in my life who I realized when you're searching or you're seeking, there's good men who are always willing to mentor you. There's always people who have a desire to feel thankful, you know what I mean, for the things you do for them or the things so that was an opportunity that I got to be around a lot of different men in their own world and their space, from New York to like out of the country, and realize, we all come from different paths and just completely learn. And I think sometimes as a male, it's really hard to get to that space of journeyhood, of seeking what you're missing, right? Whether it's a father figure, whether it's a brotherhood. A lot of times I've met guys who have a really hard time with understanding the pack, trying to really be about the team or really be about people. And sports really taught me that, because I think when you're in sports, you learn what a brotherhood really means when you win or when you lose and win together, right? Especially if you get a team that's good enough to be self-efficient and self-responsible. And I was the kind of guy who always took it on my shoulders. So I never remember ever being the kind of guy that blamed people. So it was like people always respected my circumstance because I took losses for real. And even when I was a captain of the team, I'd never go out of my way to blame somebody else. I felt like we weren't prepared, we didn't condition enough or something like that. Like, those were things I took personally. And I think some people really hated that, because even sometimes in college, I'd make us run more. Right, coach would be like, we're done. I'm like, hell no, we're not done. Like, we're running more. And I'd force circumstances, especially if we lose a game where you see fatigue on your team or something like that. I wouldn't even blame them. I would be us all run together. I'd be like, cool. And I fed off of those terrible things that made people better, which I think still is kind of part of my cynicalness in me, which is like doing the things no one wants to do with people who should be doing it because it makes us all better, and laughing as I hate it. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with a little bit of like, I don't want to do it either, but I know you don't want to do it. So I find just enough amusement in the fact that neither of us want to do it just to do it, So it's like, let's do these things we necessarily don't want to do.
Dude, when I heard that story, I was like, I fucking love it though. I love it because is you know, is a man, you want someone that's going to push you. You want someone to like set that pace, for you. And probably the other important brother in my life was my cousin. He's who I hung out with earlier in my stage. And it's always like, how much you bench press, what's going on in your business. And he really pushed both of us. And we had completely different businesses in a way. His was very digital distance. He wasn't part of really the product. It was mobile detailing. I remember when he sold his car to get a truck to mobile detailing. And I always tell people, everyone's going to give you shit when you go to make choices for you and your business. We gave him shit. We supported him. We support him 100%. But as a brother, we're still going to give him shit. Like, why did you sell your car and buy a truck to go wash cars? And to see his whole journey and see what it does, but he probably didn't enjoy his business as much as I did. So it was really interesting, having those conversations. And you need someone to have those like individual conversations, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be sharing out on social media like, oh, today was a shitty day. Client decided not to follow through. I cried in the corner. It was shitty. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Facts.
you need those conversations to have. And sometimes it's like, I had a great dad. I always tell everyone, like, I had a great dad. He wasn't the one I went to for my emotional needs. That was my mom. But he did teach me what it's like to be a man. And I just feel like I was saying, just going back to brotherhood as far as everything goes, a brother, in my opinion, can be all those things. He could be that, has
Facts.
those emotional conversations with you. He could be the person that helps you, in business as far as everything goes. But the point I was making is, even though my dad was a great father, like, I really I can't sit there and like say, oh, I wish this and wish that. Like, I'm not gonna do that. But I went to other people, kind of what you're saying, to fulfill that father figure type of mentoring. And I don't think we'll ever get that full thing that we need from our fathers at the end of the day. Like, I think about, you're a father too. As a son, well, I want to get your uh mindset on this. Like, after having the dad that you did, or more of your stepdad, you haven't talked to your dad in how long?
I mean, I probably like a year or two. I've never actually met him in person. So like, we
Really?
talk ever so often, every couple years now. We speak, and maybe once a year. But I'm still planning on going out there to see him. I feel like there is a little bit of like, kind of just things I just need to see the man to his face. Like, I need to really, I've had a couple encounters with him. He called me when I was like 18 years old, like the peak of football. School scholarships were everywhere. Somebody found out who my actual father was and found him
That's
right?
crazy.
Thinking that
That's
he knew
crazy.
me, and then I ended up getting a call from him, which was really kind of one of those like slap in the face situations because he didn't just figure out who I was, or he didn't just call me because he wanted to talk to me. He called me because I was brought up by somebody else who was trying to get a hold of me, but found him, right? And so that was a very interesting concept. And I was just like, I didn't even want to talk to him after that because I was like, you haven't talked to me in 18 years. Like, we're not fucking friends. Like,
Dude,
you're
I
not
wouldn't
gonna
want
have
to
a
talk to
regular
you. Yeah.
conversation with me. He was like talking about a few things with like some women and shit. And I was like, we're not friends, dog. I'm done talking to you. I literally hung
Yeah.
up the phone.
Wow.
I was like, I'm done talking to you. And like, I didn't talk to him for like 8 years until like I was in my 20s, and I
Were
was
you hurt earlier on in your life that that your dad was around, or you didn't
yeah,
want to
you
share that?
absolutely in sports. You know what I mean? Like my stepfather was kind of somebody who supported me in that process, but like you know the difference between you and like your real father or something you feel like you're missing. So there always just feels like a gap there, right? Because there's a little bit of what I would say. What would be the word? What would say not. Like there's a little bit of like a little bit of more caring or a little bit more close knit that you can actually be with your father. Like say giving a kiss on the cheek or giving a kiss on the forehead, a really close hug. Those kind of things you don't feel that comfortable with a stepfather, right? And
Yeah, and I'm a stepfather now these days too, and
mhm.
I'm at this point in our relationship where I'm actually open to him. I had a conversation with him 4 months ago, um, in his room, and I was like, "Hey, I just want to say that you're a great kid, and I love you, and I know I've been very distant to you, and that has nothing to do with you whatsoever. It has nothing to what you've done or didn't do. That's just my own thing. And but I want to have a great relationship with you." And you just saw tears streaming down his eyes, and if you're dating a woman who has kids, there's nothing that will make a woman happier than you starting to open yourself to her kids. Let me tell you that. But I was a stepdad before, and that whole thing broke up in a way. So, yeah, I can imagine having a stepdad. You just kind of miss that little thing.
Yeah, you miss that the I was gonna say the word intimacy, but like not like that kind of intimacy, but there's like a
Sure. No,
there's
I
that
get it. I get it.
there's
Yeah.
that feeling, when you pick up your son, you kiss him on the cheek and you just hug him, and it doesn't feel weird. It's like, you're my son. Like
Yeah.
fuck whatever you think, right? People say it's weird. It's. But when guys, because we're always so weird about how close you can get with a child who's not yours, right? Because there's a fine wall between there's a big distance between how close and huggy and close you can be with your own child versus being with somebody else's child or somebody,
Mhm.
you feel that little bit of distance of like how close you can actually get, right? So I think me growing up, you just notice that, right? Being around other fathers and their kids and in sports and them being so close. And it may be partly because you're shut off. Like, I just didn't feel like that with my stepdad. Like, it was an amazing stepdad in the point in time of protection or, being there and having conversations. But there was just never that time where you could, you know, get hugged by your father and cry, even if
Yeah.
they don't tell you it's okay or whatever like that, but they'll hug you and they'll let you get through those painful times and situations. And it's like you get that perspective of what a man will feel like when they lose their battles and the worlds and the things that they've tried and lost. My mom never really understood sports in that manner. My mom would say things like, it's just a sport. And I'd be like, Mom, I swear to God, Mom, don't say that to me. Like she'd be like,
Yeah.
what? I'm almost like, don't do that.
It's
Don't do it.
everything. That's
It's
everything
everything
to
to
us.
me. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's how I try to do everything. At the end of the day, is trying to give everything I have, and this just feels like one of those things where you try so hard and you didn't win. But I freaked out on I think like freshman year when she said it to me one time. She just like never said it to me again because
Yeah.
I was just I was so heated. I was so bothered, right? And it was like I made a mistake in the game too. So like even though it wasn't like the mistake that lost us the game, to me, if I made one mistake during the game and they scored one touchdown on me, then that's 7 points they shouldn't have had on me. And if we lose with a 7 point gap, like, it's my fault. Like I should have stopped them in the second quarter when they scored that touchdown. Like I always had that mentality of just like focusing on
can't
what I
even
was doing.
imagine being like a kicker, especially a college kicker. Honestly, I think I have more heart for a college kicker than a pro kicker because college kicker, they're not making millions. Pro, it's like, yeah, well, you're making some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
These kids that miss 3 or 4 field goals in a game. Oh man, like even if it's the other team that I'm cheering for, I'm just like, man, I really my heart goes out to that kid because
I still remember one of our kickers missing a game we almost lost, and him coming off the sideline, and my coach just grabbed him. You got one job. You got one job. He was just like,
that kid is scarred, man. We're gonna have to call him back up.
bro, he was holding him so hard. The kid was just like, he goes over there to the sideline, just crying and kicking for the next couple hours. He was like, if I bring you back out here, you better do the one job I put. Like, I was just like, oh man, oh snap, dude.
Holy
I don't
shit.
want to have one job. Okay, I can't read. I can't. You can't fix a messed up kick the next play. You know what I mean? Like you get one chance, you kick it, it goes wrong. Like you don't get to like, okay, that was a bad play. Let me try again. You know what I mean? Like not until the whole next time.
Yeah, what do you say to your kicker? Is like, just go out and fucking just kick the ball like you're in practice, bro. Just go out there and fucking kick it. Get out of your fucking head and go kick the ball.
I don't even talk. I never ever like wanted to talk to kickers because I always felt like
You jinx them.
they were just in their own space. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys just need to focus on what you're doing. There's no hype that's gonna make you kick the ball harder or more accurate. Like you don't get juiced up and like this is gonna be the perfect kick. Woo! Like, you know what I mean? Like so I could never juice them up because I was always super juiced up. So it's not like I wanted them to get overwhelmed or hyped up or smack somebody super hard. But
In my opinion, they just got to get out of their head. You're getting in your head. You starts messing with your mechanics and that you've got down. Practice, you're not in your head. There's no situation where you can lose much, right? And then the transfer from practice to game is where now players and people start getting in their head and it starts messing.
we used to do the kicker hot seat, right? That was the kicker hot seat, which basically means they're deciding on how much we're gonna condition, right? And so if you got to kick these like 10 kicks,
Oh,
and
okay.
every time you miss, the team's running more. So it was like pressure's
That's a
on,
good
dog.
idea, actually. That's a good idea.
Pressure's on, dog. You better, hey, dog. You better make these kicks because we have to condition regardless, right? So we'd be like, yo, you guys got 10 of these. Every kick he missed, we're adding 3, right? I remember one time he was like, every kick he missed, we're adding 5, and I was just like, oh my god, 5 more of those is difficult. The little run to the 10, run back, run to the 20, run back. 10 of those things are deadly. You add 5 onto those, it's like you, dog, if you miss one, and there's a few times where we missed it. And I know for a fact the pressure was on after those couple times happened because we were in the locker room after conditioning, mad as hell at him, staring at him.
Shit. Oh,
Bro, you got one job, dog. You got one job, man, out here, man. You got one job.
yeah, that's a great way to practice for the real game, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, bringing it back around. So for the people listening to him, like, what would you say to one of the things that me and Dom talked about is not just creating a brotherhood full of followers, but helping them lead their own communities. What would you say to the men out there that necessarily don't have a brotherhood, or maybe they're kind of in between stages of some friend groups, they're searching for that, or maybe they're in a group of people that really doesn't push them the way that they should? What advice would you give for them?
The one advice I would say is keep looking and don't make friends by accident. The one thing I've learned in any person out there, if you're really trying to find a group of men to be around or really get out there and build a group of men around you, you have to be, one thing is you got to be at your highest self at points in time, right? Or seeking to find people who want to be at their highest self. And when you go out to find brotherhoods, find people who are doing the things that are your best habits and not your worst habits. Like if you're not the best drinker, don't go to bars to meet friends. If you're not really good at certain things, go try to find people in the space in which they're, thriving and you want to thrive in as well, rather than finding them in your worst of habits, right? Like if you're a raver who does a lot of drugs, don't go and find all your friends who are in that space, right? Even if you do it on the side, don't consistently find people who are in the worst habits of yourself, whether it's being lazy or maybe it's watching TV or like I don't really have anything I really do with even friends I make nowadays. I always try to find them in the best of me. Like the things I can do the best, or the things I can help other people with, and make that friendship based on those positions, and people will really start to get to know you. And don't go out looking for people who are the funnest of the times, right? Like fun is one thing, but what I would say is satisfied friendships are different than fun friendships. When you go home, you could have a great time going out with your friends and drinking. You go home, you feel like shit the next couple of days. You're trying to figure out work, and you may have been happy for the time being, but you weren't satisfied about, what happened after you hung out with them, or what are those things doing. And so I would just say, if you're out there trying to find a brotherhood, trying to find a group of people to be around, figure out what you plan on doing in your future, what that looks like for you, and start going to find those people and try to serve as much as you can. Try to give as much as you can, try to learn as much as you can. As a man out there, it's very important to learn and be capable. It's very important to keep growing from where you're at, to read books or to listen to books or to change your mindset, because people really do value those who they feel they can help. And when you're a man of your own stature, of your own value, and building your own thing, of course, some people will attach to you who may not be the best for you, but you may be the person that helps them get to that next level. And then when you really find yourself around the right group of people, it's not about having the most money. I realized that a long time ago in business, when I thought like, okay, maybe this group of people only want me to hang out if I had all this money, if I have all these accolades. But the reality is, people, when they're looking for good people to be around, they don't really care about your accolades as much as they feel like they can either let your guard down, or they can be respectful in your space, or they can have a good time to banter with you and stuff like that. Like most of my friends, I talk a lot of shit to.
Here's what I would say. Here's what I'd say about that. Your
Yeah,
accolades don't matter as much to them as they matter to you. And then
facts.
when they matter to you, you make it a deal and you position your value lower. And
Hmm.
then it's almost like you come into the situation with this unconscious, like, please accept me, please. And then you try to be cool or you try to say the thing. And then that usually starts to either distance the relationship or it just doesn't. Yeah, I've noticed that. And I've even done that myself at some point in time. I
Yeah.
don't have a good example of it, like when it specifically stands out, but that's a really good tip.
Yeah, and I learned that, I'm a person, especially when we're going out to, figure out what kind of people you want to be around, or what kind of people you want to be in your circle, is like, I made it very clear as I got older, is like, I don't think you should have friends by accident. Like, I feel like you get to a certain age, when it comes to your family, when it comes to the people around you, becoming friends by accident is not going to really happen as an adult. It's got to be purposeful driven.
Mhm.
And, I always say things like, it's really hard for me to really be friends with someone who doesn't make me laugh, right? Making me laugh could be the most, you don't never have, like, if you can make me laugh, to me, there's so much value in a great laugh, a good friendship with a great laugh. If we don't make money together, then that's another reason why I'm like, cool. If you can't make me laugh, or we don't make money together, or we can't have an insightful conversation where I can trust in your opinion, because it's really hard for me to be friends with someone if I can't trust their opinion, because they will feel that. They will
Yeah.
feel that lack of trust in me. It's really hard for me to be like, like, I trust you. I'm the guy that's like, maybe you should stick to the shit you know. Like, really focus on the things you know and kind of talk about that, because, you can't make friends on accident, right?
Mhm.
So, as an adult, you got to be purposefully driven trying to make friends. And there's nothing wrong with telling yourself that you're looking to make friends and then going out there and trying to be friends with people. And don't get caught up with trying to hang out with people, but get caught in trying to deliver value to those people you want to be friends with. Whether you do make them laugh, whether you are a good time, whether you're easy, friendships, a person who's easygoing to me is also pretty good with a friendship. Who's not too uptight. We can go do something. I can call them and be like, yo, let's go do this. And they're down, right? Sometimes that's the best thing you can do, is be malleable. But as an adult, it has to be purpose driven, because you have to protect your family, the people around you, and you have to be capable. And so you got to be really careful about who you hang out with, but at the same time, you got to be very open to that conversation and to that friendship. And as guys, it's really hard for us to just like make friends or say someone's a friend or, start making those kind of claims towards
I
people.
think it's easier for a woman for that, honestly.
I think it's not easier. I think it's just it's hardwired into their sociology, right? When they talked about the kind of things we look at, like we look at ranking and positioning and stuff like that, and that is where we put people into these standards: captain versus worst player versus, we do that. But with women, most of the games they play when they're growing up and stuff like that come from, feeling or liking each other or doing those things. Like, you hang out with people in middle school and high school. Sometimes you didn't even necessarily like them as a person, but you're like, fuck it, we play games together, we hang out. But that doesn't mean I necessarily liked that person's character. With women, it's like part of their character or how they behave with each other as friends is super, super important, which is also part of why they can remain in a circle, but they have a harder time remaining in long-term friendships sometimes, right? Because for us, the friendship is built in similar things and things we do, but it's not in really deeply knowing each other when we're men in the original. Like, originally, we don't really need to know. I have friends I don't really know everything about, like probably not much about them to the instinct of like their real life. But like when we get together, it's us, it's our friendship, it's like what we know, it's like what we do. And yes, we'll kind of have some conversations about their circumstance in past, but we also just have so much of a good time that it's like, I can also go hang out with people and not even worry about the shitty things happening in my life because they won't even ask. We'll just hear and we'll make sure we have a good time. We'll create new laughter, new things. And they're never just like trying to really dig into like the worst things of your life, which is also sometimes a blessing because you're like, when you just want to call people to have a good time, you do have some of those friends who just, they're not a good time without you, right? I have some of those friends who can't have a good time without me having a good time. But sometimes you need those guys who can have a good time regardless, just so you can bring them in your life and remind yourself of what a good time is. And they won't be fazed by, what you feel, but they will try to bring you up to that level. And sometimes you need to be fucking pulled out the trenches, you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to be pulled out the trenches, Like, shouts out to you for taking me to the gym not too long ago, right? Pulled me out of the trenches. I haven't worked out in months. Right, but as soon as I went to the gym with you one time, my mind snapped back into position to get back into the gym, and it was just like I was literally for months saying, "I'm gonna get a gym membership. I'm gonna get a gym membership. Oh, I'm gonna do it." Then you're like, "Yo, we're gonna go work out. We're gonna go up here and work out." I'm like, "Oh, fuck, all right, cool." Boom, workout. Wasn't even prepared, and then after that, my mind just snapped in to doing that. And those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Doing the good habits with people. Out of all the things you could have invited me to, you invited me to the gym. So,
Nice. Love it. Love it. I did it. So I have a person that gets my ass up in the morning to go to the gym, because otherwise, yeah, you gotta have those people. And I never really thought about what are the important qualities I look for in a friend, or at least at a deep conscious level. I think the most important thing is, do we have similar interests? Is that our thing? Like, I don't know if I really have many friends that that work for someone else, that are W-2 employees. I don't know. I'm trying to think right now what friends I have that actually work for someone else, don't have their own business. I'd say, business, I would say, is one. I would say sports and having interests. I love guns. I'm into a lot of things outdoors, so I can get along with almost anyone that has a business. But from there, I would say the most important quality is like trust. Like, can I trust you?
facts.
And there's been certain situations where I've had to kind of step back and see, who do I trust? And there's a little sneaky trick to do that, is you tell someone something and you don't tell anyone else, and if you hear that back, then that's the person that's sharing it. So
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I definitely do that.
and
Yeah.
so I think the thing that I have struggled with over the years is, I think that I don't know where this belief came from. I think it's because I heard it from a book. They say the Four Dying Confessions of an Old Man. Have you ever heard that book?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember any of them. Do you?
I don't. I
There's
remember
one
it
in
was like, I wish I would have
Yeah, there's one that said, I wish I would have stayed in contact with my friends more. And I
Mm,
don't know why, but that always hit. But I've also watched myself hang on to friendships that I should have just let go. You know what I mean? And you're going to
yeah,
have people come in and out of your life. And at the end of the day, that friendship and that experience that's your experience. There's
right.
this quote that says, like it was with SpongeBob and what's the other character's name is something the fact of he says, I trust you. And he's like, what if I betray your trust? And he's like, that's your job or that's your thing to betray it. It's my job to do my part, which is trust you. I'll have to share it exactly. I don't know if I'm driving the point home as far as everything, but your relationship and that relationship that you have with everyone, that's your experience with that
Facts.
person. You know what I mean? And your in the type of experience that I want to have is I want to have trust. I want to have fun. I want to have the ability to be there for someone. I really take hey, you tell me something and you don't want anyone else knowing, like, hey, I'm a vault, like that's only between me, you, and God now at this point in time. And so, really trying to be the friend that I would want in a friend
Facts.
is probably one of the biggest things. But I think brotherhood is super important. I think it's more important than your father because at the end of the day, me and my dad we have a good relationship. I wouldn't say it's great. I wish I was a little bit closer to him as far as everything goes. But we just have kind of different things that we're focused on, and that's important to us. But I share a lot of those things with people like Dom and Josh, and anyways, coming back to the brotherhood that we have, we're building something really special, and we believe in everything that we're doing. So even if it's not with our group, I would say find a brotherhood, find a group of people that you get along with, you jive with, you trust, you're on the same trajectory as far as everything goes. So, and whatever group that is, just know like there's going to be this unconscious like agreement that you make with them, and they're going to expect things, from you to bring things to the table. And sometimes, like with Dom saying, sometimes that's just laughter. Sometimes that's just being a good time. Like if you're the person that's always bringing people down, you're always never one to pay, you're always late wherever you go, and you're a drag. Like you're like no one's coming to save you for a friend. And I see some of these. I sometimes see people and they try to be the people don't do this. Is like you're a drag on them. Like you have to bring value to the table and whatever value you bring to the table. And like I was saying, in a brotherhood, it's just unconscious. It's not something like, oh, Dom, did you make me laugh today? Oh, type thing. It's just like there's that mutual agreement. And when I went through my divorce, um, it was really hard to ask people for help. Like, hey, I need you there emotionally. Hey, I need you there physically. In one essence, I didn't even ask one of my friends, but he flew like clear down from Utah to hang out with me for the weekend. And I was just like, wow, like what a great friend. But I also thought like I must have like really filled his cup over the years with friendship for him to be willing to drop, everything and fly down with me at the same time. So that's one of the things I want to leave you with is, you got to bring stuff to your brothers and sisters and to your family. And those are some of the best relationships. So I don't know if you have any other things you want to talk about before we wrap it up. This has been a long podcast, but it's been a great one.
Yeah, no, man. My finish. I'll finish out by just saying that it's really important to find people you can hang out with. It's really important, especially for men, for our mental health and the things we go through, is to have people where you trust their opinion and you can bounce things off of. We're also the kind of people, that you can find yourself being around a bunch of people and still feeling isolated and alone. So just be very careful about putting on that mask too crazy to find friends, and try to find them in your most authentic, original self. And, sometimes it may not be as original as you want it to be in the beginning, but it's something you're trying to become. It's somebody you're trying to become, like whether you're trying to become a business owner whether you're trying to grow in your company or whatever those things are and those aspirations that you're next to, and, you know, share those things with people. Because I would say the more you say it out loud to yourself and even to other people, you know, you start to believe it more. And, you know, one thing I heard is that God can hear what you say, but he rarely hears what you think. And there was something that I was laughing about the other day because we were just making a joke about women in general and being like, you know, they want you to read their mind. And then the guy was like, how many times do you have God do that? And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I never even thought about that. And he was like, even when you pray, you should say it out loud. You should speak it into existence. You should put it in the vibrations. You should put it into the world itself because it's part of the creation. The words you say out of your mouth, the things you say about yourself out loud, the things you say about others, those things will come back around in energy and feast. And just make sure you're praying out loud and putting your goals out into the world consistently, because like I said, people, brothers and people you hang out with can't really know what you're trying to do until you say it. So don't try to be silent with your goals or your friendships or appreciating people or being grateful for what you do have. Speak those things out loud, because I know what it feels like to have some things that you don't feel grateful about and then they disappear and you're just like, why wasn't I more grateful for those things that I had in the moment? And why was I just so focused on the things that weren't going well, which lost all the things I should have been grateful for? So for the people out there looking for brotherhoods to be part of something, be grateful, speak your goals out loud, and become that person you're trying to become, and get around people who are already there so that it makes it easier to find the habits when you're around people who are doing it. So
Yeah, I love that. And here's, I would add on to that. Most people love helping other people. They really do.
that is
And
true.
when you're not voicing your goals and you're not asking for help, you're taking away the thing that people love the very most, which is actually serving and helping people, right? I
Yeah.
meet with people all the time. What do you want to do? I want to help people. I want to serve people. It's in our fucking DNA. People
Facts.
want to help you. You just need to ask. Like that's the biggest thing. And you said something the other day about white privilege. What did you say again? Because
Yeah,
I thought
so
it
I
was
made the
brilliant.
comment about most I went to high school with I would say white kids, or you know, Eastern or whatever you want to call them. Yes, but use the word white. And what I realized in the circumstances that, you know, growing up with parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties in the space, is that times did change, right? And when I was starting to get into places where you could easily get into a situation where you feel like, oh, something happened because someone's racist or because this has happened, I started to realize that it wasn't that the white kids around me were getting so much more privilege, is that they believed and they would ask for help and what they think they wanted, right? So it's like asking for a raise at a job or asking to switch to a position or asking to get things. Sometimes they were way more persistent and they had just natural belief in what they were doing, and they didn't feel like asking was something crazy, that they were a burden on any sort of thing. And it's like they were getting things that I wish I could have, but I was just too afraid to ask for. So when I look at guys and girls in the situation nowadays, when people are like, oh, this guy's white or it's because I'm black, and I'm like, how much do you actually ask for help? How much do you actually go out to the world and tell them what you want and make it happen and ask for people to help you get there and ask for mentors? And I realized by going to a majority of white schools that they didn't feel weird about that. Not as weird as I did. I felt like a burden in some places. I felt like, why should I ask, or why don't deserve it? But it was like, even if they deserved it or not, that didn't stop them from asking, right? Whether I looked at them and like, they don't deserve that, they would still ask and they would still get it. And I would be salty, and even though I never asked. And so when I make that joke about white privilege, is like, I feel like white people can just ask more and more and more, and they feel like it's okay to ask. They feel like, why not them, you know? And I think that kind of plays into this historical thing that we have now, where racism seems like it's way bigger than it actually is. And there's no point in time where people are like, oh my God, racism is crazy. And I'm like, what time period do you want to go back to? Like, if you wanted to think about the better life as an African American during this time in life, what century are you going back to? I'm staying here. Okay, there's not a time in history I'm like, you know what, it's probably better over here. Even when people say, oh, location wise, I'm like, black people were being like, sold to American. You know what I mean? Like, we were like, oh, white people went over there and stole us from Africa. I was like, no, they were sold by other black people. Other tribes were like, yo, take these black people with you. You can have them. We're going to sell them to you after we conquered their town and city. So yeah, I just say that I think sometimes it's just the ability to ask and know that, the difference between the people who are getting what you really want in life and are doing it, part of it's working and part of it's just asking for help. Just believing that you should receive help. People want to help and just be open to ask for that. And I think sometimes in certain neighborhoods and the white community that I was in, it felt like people wanted to help you. So I had to like develop just asking more. And I started getting more and more, right? And there was other black kids who went to my school who was like, "Oh, you're like a charity case." I'm like, I don't believe it's charity when people want to help. Like, if they're gonna help me, I'm gonna ask. Like, at this point, I realized not asking just let me bitter and on the back end, like just
Yeah,
mad
someone
about
told me
life.
this, like you take away someone's ability, you can't take someone's ability to give away from them because when you take away their ability to give, you also take away their ability to receive. Sometimes it's not even about you. And
Facts.
so sometimes sometimes I receive something not necessarily because I want to receive it, it's because they really want to give it and that's important to them to
Facts.
give that. And so I'm receiving that. So I think, being a better giver and being a better receiver,
True.
is really important, is being so yeah, that was just a huge epiphany for me as well, is like coming back to some of those basic things. Last one I'd say, because we can be on here all day talking about shit with Dom.
That is true.
Dom has some preacher in him. He doesn't know this yet, or maybe he does, but he definitely does. Here's what I would say. Instead of trying to tap into a network, instead of trying to tap into a group of friends, you need to create the network around you. And the truth is, you already have a network. And if you're seeking a network because in your mind you're like, I don't have a network of friends, it's like you do have a network. It's just not up to your standards of what you really want it to be and how you want to live your life. And so what we're really focused on is helping people build their communities and building their tribe of people.
Facts.
And that's something that's super important to us.
A
And then
band of leaders.
yeah. And utilizing the back ends, the systems, the softwares to do those things. And so we're doing lots of giveaways and doing events to help you build your tribe so you can come and give to the people and pour into those guys. And so that's what I say to a lot of people, like, I don't need you necessarily to pour back. I got God, I got me, I pour in myself, Max, my son, Flory, all pour into me. Dom pours into me. I have lots of things. I need you to pour into somebody else. And so when you're pouring into your community, man, it will absolutely change your life. So, Dom, how do they follow you? What's your Instagram?
You guys can find me at Marketing with Dom on any platform, honestly, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me Marketing with Dom. If you're trying to get a hold of me, most likely the easiest place to find me is Instagram at Marketing with Dom. Fastest way you get a response is, so that's where you can find me.
Okay. Super appreciate it, man. We definitely will be doing more podcasts. We just launched or in the process of launching Arizona. Let's talk about your brand. We're going to have some fun. I've never been excited for, I haven't been this excited about an event or a podcast in a long time. So
That's true. I do enjoy our podcast. I can't wait to their heat. I feel like we create a good time. I think it's just
yeah.
bringing the heat is going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Lastly, if you haven't came to one of our events, in the link below, if you click on that link, you'll get a free ticket to come to one of our masterminds and see what it is. Would love to get you connected and see where you're at in business and how we can serve in any way. I usually don't make personal plugs like this, but you're going to absolutely want to come to one of these events and get plugged in. So check that out in the comments. Be inspired in what you're doing. Be next gen. You have a story. Get it out to the world. And we'll talk soon. Good talk.
All right, man. Thank you guys for having me.